Hi, this is Roger. I've just got back from my day out at Burnham's with a tedious drive both directions. Well, that's just how it is. It's not a long distance. I think it's just over 100 miles each way, but the time it takes is disproportionate to the number of miles on the grounds that the roads aren't particularly good, and I'm travelling through Dorset and Devon. And basically those are two of the highest tourist areas in the country, probably, along with Cornwall as well, just basically the south coast. It's very scenic, it's very pretty, it's got lovely beaches, and it's got everything going for it, and it's a huge tourist attraction. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a road network to go with the volume of traffic. And basically it's nice to look at the scenery, but most of the time you spend your time looking at the back of a camper van or a caravan. That's just how it is. Anyway, and the journey there had an accident where one of the aforementioned camper vans had pulled out of a side road, obviously straight in the path of oncoming traffic, and bashed a car all across the road, and the police were there, and there was a 3-mile tailback, and it took 25 minutes to get through. Did about 2 miles in 25 minutes. Very tedious. And unfortunately it was in a wooded area, so there wasn't a lot to look at. It couldn't have been in a nice open place with a view of the sea or something like that. Anyway, I got there, and I saw quite a few people I knew, including Archie, and Peter White was there with his associate. I can never remember her name, Kate. And Sarah was there, Arthur was there, so I've had a great time. It was a lovely day out. I'm really glad I went, and I'm really glad I went on the Saturday and not on the Sunday. Now, at one point I was casually doing a bit of filming because I'd done my chatting, and I mean, when you do a 2.5, well actually a 3-hour drive, including getting fuel and faffing around trying to get away from my own town, you know, when you've done that amount of driving without a stop, when you get to somewhere, the first stop is the boys' room, and in my case the second stop is coffee, and that was followed by a nice cooked breakfast which was at like 11:30. And I went up and I said, can you still do me a cooked breakfast? And she said, I can do you one, that's all we've got left. And I said, well, I only want one. So I had a nice cooked breakfast and sit down, got over my drive, and then started to have a look round, and most enjoyable, quite honestly. I bought one plant. Despite me not buying plants, this one has been on the list for a while. So I'll show you what I got if I can get it open with one hand. It's not going to look anything spectacular because it's not in bloom, but I know what the blooms look like, and if I can find a picture that's not going to get me clobbered on YouTube for stealing somebody else's copyright stuff, I'll put a picture up. But I've been after this one for a while. Luckily it's tissue paper, so despite having sellotape, it should tear open reasonably easily. Oh, you're all looking at the leaves thinking, he's got a Masdevallia. No, he hasn't. What he's got is a Dracula. So that makes 2. And I've been after this one for a while, and it looks like I've got about a dozen free ferns in here as well. There's quite a bit of that going on in Burnham's. They've got some ferns dotted around, and I think what's happened is they've produced their spores, and with the fans blowing around, they've distributed their spores and started germinating in loads of the pots. So everybody basically gets a free fern or two. This is Dracula Bella, and I'll tell you why I've been after this one for a while. A guy I know really well, a good friend, brought one into the show tables on one of the Orchid Society meetings, and you know what Dracula blooms look like. Well, hopefully I can find a picture and I'll show you, but they're Masdevallia-like, but not really. They've got the typical sort of central bloom with 3 tails, you know, one heading up and one heading out to the left, one heading out to the right, of various lengths. The bloom on this particular one is about 5 inches across, and it's the closest thing to Vamparia that you can get as far as I know. The difference is this hybrid is not fussy. Vamparia is. I've seen people bring Vamparias to shows, and if their humidity changes by about 5%, they dump the bloom. It just wilts and it falls. If it's a dramatic change, it will just drop off. So they're very, very difficult to move from their growing environment. So you very rarely see them in a show. And if you do, they're normally in a polythene bag until the judges come round, and then, you know, literally they take them out their polythene bag for 30 seconds and then put them back in, or they lose the bloom. It's as simple as that. This one has very similar blooms, but it's not fussy. So whatever this has got crossed in with it, it's taken the fussiness out of it. But very, very large, beautiful blooms, if I can get some. I chose this plant because it's got a couple of brown tips, and that's probably because of where it was actually placed. It probably got a little bit too much feed because of what it was next to. I know how Burnham's water and feed. It's a scatter process. It's almost like a hose job, and anything that gets in the way gets some. So it may have been a little overfed, but when no one was looking, I upended the pot. It's got a good root system in there. And basically it's got this nice new leaf, this nice new leaf, and a nice new growth. So although it's not a huge plant, it's good enough for me. This was not cheap either. But then if you buy from a nursery, you're not going to get a cheap plant. You know, it's just not going to happen. And I was happy to pay what I paid for this. I mean, it was £30. That's a lot for me. But with my sort of YouTube money, I did say that the price of an orchid becomes less important because YouTube are paying for it. So it hasn't come out of Roger's wine fund. Well, I tell you what, when I got back as well, again, when you've done a long journey, and I didn't stop again, so long journey, first stop, boys' room, second stop, ice cold beer, next stop, another ice cold beer. Boy, was I thirsty. Anyway, so that's what I got. Dracula, Bella, and yeah, I'm pleased. I'm pleased I've finally found that. And yeah, so that's what I got. I did a lot of filming there. It's all in little individual clips as I was sort of going around, and they will take a while to put together to make a video. There's 30 odd clips to put together, so it will take a little bit of time. And the way it's probably going to pan out, it's Saturday the 7th today, which means it's the 8th tomorrow. So that's tomorrow's video, which will be everything in bloom on the 8th, obviously. So the trip to Burnham's video will probably be Monday's video. I'll put it together during tomorrow, but it's one of those where I have to write the soundtrack off and find some suitable music. And for obvious reasons, I've got to go a bit more careful what music I choose now, because I don't want to get a strike. Get somebody stop me money or something stupid. So I'll have a little bit more time. I'll have to spend a little bit more time choosing my music, basically. Some of the music I've chosen in the past, I was aware that I would get what's called a soft strike, which means there's no copyright against it, but somebody still has the rights to the music, and if they choose to do so, they can place adverts on your video. So it's what I call a soft strike. It's not a hard strike. It doesn't upset your relationship with YouTube or anything. But I don't even want one of those at the moment, so I'll have to find some proper YouTube music and faff around. So it'll take a while, so I'll put that together ready for Monday. So that's what I got, and I had a really nice time. Lovely day out, and I've come back absolutely cream crackered. So I know what I'm going to do now. Oh, it was really funny because it was quite... Obviously, walking around an orchid nursery is a very relaxed atmosphere. You know, people muttering amongst themselves and chatting softly. And all of a sudden, there was this shriek and set of screams from the back room. And I know who was in the back room. It was Peter White. and a couple of others, some of the sales staff, and this, that and the other. And what I didn't realise was they had a radio in there, didn't they? And apparently some bloke in some frilly shorts had kicked a ball through a goal or something or other. Yeah, I am taking the mickey, but basically England scored a goal while I was in the middle of filming, so I obviously can't leave the shrieks on there. It'll be replaced by some nice gentle music. I must admit, it's good to see everybody having a good time with a sort of joint thing, you know, a thing that they can share. It's not something I particularly enjoy, but I think it's great that people can club together. People who've never seen each other before can become instant friends when, you know, when you're at that level in a sporting event. So it's good stuff. Anyway, I will see you tomorrow in the Everything in Bloom on the 8th. And luckily this doesn't need an immediate repot or attention. It's okay as it is for a bit, because I certainly don't want to start mucking about with roots on a cool grower in these temperatures, which we've still got. Apparently it might get a bit cooler next week. I'll believe it when I see it. No rain, just a bit cooler. See you next time.